Okay, so this is social media for platform how to for librarians. This is the Facebook session. And okay, and it's May 1st. Welcome to May, everyone. We're going to talk about basic features and target audience to begin with. And this recorded part will be a quick half hour, so we will have Q&A at the end that won't be recorded. All right, first we're going to talk about basic requirements. Most of you should be familiar with this, but in an attempt to be consistent across all of the platforms that we're going to cover in this series, this will be a common slide. For Facebook, you need a computer with high-speed internet and an updated web browser or a mobile device with access to the internet that can download and run the Facebook app. Most of you should be familiar with this, but like I said, just listing it. And the last requirement here is the more important one. You'll need a Facebook profile already. This can be a personal profile, or you can set up a dummy profile specifically for the library. So a little bit about the audience demographics for the platform. I pulled these from Sprout Social, which is a company that collects statistical information about social media for use by marketing companies, and they sell that information. But according to them, the fastest growing age group on Facebook is 65 and over. Facebook usage among teens is declining over the last few years, and of those who have a Facebook profile, 74% of them check it daily. I think if you have a Facebook profile yourself, you might be able to put yourself in that category or not. Something I found interesting, posts made on Wednesdays and Thursdays reach the most people, and most users say they use Facebook to connect with friends and family. This information from Sprout Social was accurate as of the end of 2019, so it's pretty up to date. So we're going to slide right into setting up an account. For this example, I set up a dummy library from my personal account. So take that with a grain of salt. But first you'll need to sign into Facebook with your profile, and you can see my personal profile logged in right there. I have blanked out other personal information from my own Facebook here. But you'll want to create a page for your library. If one has not already been created, you'll want to go to the Create button up here, and you'll want to click on Page because you're wanting to create a page. And then it'll ask you, are you creating a page for business or brand or community or public figure? I would suggest you select business or brand. This will give you a lot more options to interact with your patrons. A community page or a public figure page is good if, let's say, you're a politician or you're a smaller community group that's more for announcements and events, but not for publicity, which this is. I mean, it's social media. This is why you're setting up your Facebook page. Then it'll ask you to supply information about your library, and this is where I leaned in when I was creating this, and I told my mother I had created a library in her house just so she knew. So that address is where I am currently. So you'll want to enter your basic information. So you put in the name of your library. Your category is library, and that is a category on Facebook, so you'll want to choose that designation. And then you put in the address of your library. Phone number is optional, but I would encourage you, if your library should have a landline, to put in the phone number. And to also, where it says don't show my address, go ahead and show your address. Since this is a public place, you want people to find it. So then it will ask you to upload both a profile and a cover photo. Here it's just asking for the profile picture, but as soon as you upload that, it'll ask you to also upload a cover photo. Facebook, it's important to upload photographs and use photographs in Facebook because although it did not start out as a primarily visual medium, it has since become a primarily visual medium, and the algorithms that run Facebook favor photo and photo posts. So, and it'll be a lot easier for your patrons to find the library page if you upload a picture of something that's immediately recognizable for your library. Maybe this, if you have a sign out front that's very recognizable as people drive by, you can upload a picture of the sign. If your building is recognizable to people, you can take a picture and upload that picture to as your profile photo. The cover photo is the one that'll show up if people go to your library's Facebook page, and it shows up behind your profile photo. And so that one is not as important. That one could be a more general one. So for example, here we've got, for the profile photo, I just used a picture of the sunset that's a view from my parents' farm. So I recognize that. Then for the cover photo here, a more generic library photo. So, but on this slide, we're looking at adding more information to your page. So to do that, you want to go to Edit Page Info, which should be in the upper right-hand side of the page. And clicking on that will bring you to this page, and we're looking at Page Info. And here's where you can put in more detailed information about your page. So you can add a description if you have, you can say, hey, this is a municipal or city or district library. And then if you have a mission statement, you can put it here. Phone number and website there, and there's more information to be entered. And we will go to this little dummy library page that I'll be able to walk you through more of this in this presentation. And one other thing I wanted to note before we look at it live, it's important to set up your page security. Privacy settings are important on any social media platform that you're using. So Facebook is not accepted here. It is important to know what your privacy settings are and to use them. So under settings, you click on settings, and see, before we were in Edit Page Info, now we're in settings. And these are all of the settings that you have, and just some important things to note. Right now, it's wide open. It's the Wild West, so anyone can publish to the page. Anyone can add photos to the page. People can contact the page privately. But here we see tagging ability. Only people who help manage my page can tag photos posted on it. And going on down, there's other things you can do to manage the security of your page. The profanity filter is turned off, for example. Oh, and Linda, that is fine if you're late, and for the other people who joined late, we are recording the session, and so you'll be able to go back and watch the beginning of this. Probably Monday or Tuesday is when I'll have the recording posted. So once you have your page security set up, the other thing you'll want to set up is who can administer your page. So if you are setting up a new library Facebook page for your library, you're automatically the administrator because you're creating it based off of your personal profile, or whatever profile you're logged in as. That person is automatically the administrator. But you can add other administrators also. And this can be a great way if you're thinking about how do we transition, like let's say you have a new director or a new social media manager coming in. How do you manage that transition to sort of give the Facebook account to a new person? Well, if you set up your page roles here, and we'll go to the next slide, and add new administrators, you can then give the control of that page to a new person, and then that new person can in turn go in and remove other administrators. So I'm going to exit the presentation here so we can look at how all of what we went over, we can look at it live, so to speak. So here is the dummy page that we have set up for this fake library so that we can explore some of these options. This is the personal page. Obviously, it's not the news feed, it's the personal page of this fake library. And I have not done anything other than upload a profile photo and a cover photo. You'll have to excuse the notifications up here from my personal Facebook. So we talked about editing page info. So if we click on edit page info up at the upper right, you can see here's page info that we can add. Description, phone number, website, an email. You'll want to make your Facebook page as accessible as possible. So fill in all that information. And just if you're unsure about anything, just read through what it says on the screen. It's pretty straightforward and user-friendly. It can be helpful to set your hours. That is an option with this kind of page. And you probably won't need to add a price range or privacy. You might want to add a privacy policy link if you have a privacy policy for social media. But just read through everything. Go ahead and fill in. This is just the basic page info. There's other things that you can look at on, we're in the settings on edit page info that you can look at. So the other thing we talked about is, before we get to that, we talked about going into settings, which is kind of where we were, but not exactly. So if you go into settings in the upper right, this is where we could talk about security. So right now the page is published. It's viewable to anyone on Facebook. It's probably not showing up in people's news feeds because I haven't shared the page with anyone and I haven't uploaded any photos besides a profile photo and the cover photo. Right now I have it set to anyone can publish to the page and anyone can add photos and videos to the page. So if they want to share things with me, they can do that. But you can change that by clicking on edit and say, maybe you want to review posts by other people before they're published to the page. Maybe you want to disable posts by other people to the page. The reason you might want to do this is if you've had problems with people putting inappropriate information on the page, or if you're just concerned about security, this is an option. You probably don't want to narrow the potential audience for your news feed, for your posts to show up on news feeds, especially when you're trying to build your audience. So there are other options. Like I said, since this is a half-an-hour presentation, I'm not going to go through everything individually, but I wanted to show you where it is so that you can go through. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Just read through. It's a little chunky to read through, but just go ahead and read through everything. The other thing that we looked at on the slides that I wanted to show you live are the page roles, because this is where you can add and delete page administrators, and you can also, there's other roles that they can have as well. So right now, existing page roles, I am the only administrator. Where it says assign new page role, this is where you can add another administrator, and I warned my sister I was going to do this, so I'm going to add her as a page administrator. And here is where Facebook has added security. You must re-enter your password to continue. And so, let's see. It's like, quick, remember your password. All right. And it says pending because she has to accept that invitation. There are other roles that you can assign also. There's editor, moderator, advertiser, and analyst. Advertiser and analyst you probably don't care about. Admin gives the person complete control over the page, just like you have. Editor gives them an ability to publish content and send messenger messages as that page. So moderator can send messenger messages as the page and respond to or delete comments on the page. So once again, just read through the different roles here. And let me know if you have any questions when you're setting up your page. You know, you can send me an email or call me when I'm back in the office, and I'll be more than happy to walk you through this so that you can make sure you're using your page the way you want to. So let's go back to the presentation here nope, I just want this. Okay, so we've added another administrator. So let's talk through the basic Facebook actions. there's about 5 or 6 here. A text post, this is just words. It's not as likely to show up in a news feed. If you're only going to use text, it's better when it's shorter, because after a certain length, if you've used Facebook, you know you have to click read more to see the whole post. People are lazy. They're not going to want to do that. I would highly recommend, if you're going to post anything, to make it a photo post or link to an outside article. This is more attention grabbing, number one. But number two, it's more likely to be boosted in the news feed. The algorithm likes a photograph. And so if you have a photo attached to whatever you're trying to say, or maybe you've made a picture of whatever you're trying to say, Facebook is more likely to put that in people's news feed. And then with commenting, you can comment on posts. You can comment as yourself. But if you're using, and you'll have to make sure you're using Facebook as the page when you comment on things on Facebook. You can go live on Facebook. Facebook does keep a recording of your broadcast until you go back and delete it. You may get more views after the Facebook Live event has ended. So if you're trying to have an online program, don't despair if you don't get a lot of people joining live. More people will go back and watch the recording. You can also set up an event and put all the information about the event in one place. This can be an in-person event or a virtual event. Patrons who choose to attend an event will get a reminder about the event from Facebook. So I'd encourage libraries to use it if they want one place to put information about an event, and if you want an option to remind your patrons about something. And I saw that Cheryl had raised her hand in the chat, so please feel free to ask your question. You'll probably have to unmute yourself if you have not. Or Cheryl, you can also type your question in chat, and I can answer it also. All right. Feel free to interrupt me if you have a question, and I'm going to go on to the next slide, or write your question in chat, and I will answer it as soon as I see it. Yes, and Tammy is here to monitor also. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, a note on privacy. Make sure your library has a social media policy in place. And SEK can work with you on developing that social media policy, but this is for your safety and your patrons' safety. It can be simple, something as simple as stating that the library uses social media, and it can be a statement to remind people that the library protects personal information. So if you plan to take and post pictures of any library patrons, for example, during a library program, make sure the patrons have been made aware that they may appear in a Facebook post, and that they or their guardian are given the option to opt out. So you don't have to go around with a clipboard and make people sign a waiver, but you do have to very clearly post somewhere that this this library posts things on social media. Please let the librarian know if you prefer not to have your image posted on social media. It can be a little bothersome, but it is important, because maybe you have some children who are in foster care at a library program, and their current foster parent has let you know that they, for legal reasons, can't appear in social media. And so this is why you have to give the option to opt out. And then this seems pretty clear to, but I wanted to go over it. Do not post any personal or private information on the library's Facebook page. I think all of us are very used to protecting our patrons' privacy, but I included this because if you are not careful about making sure that you're using the library's profile and not your own personal profile, and you post something that you would post on your own personal page, then you are sharing personal or private information on the library's Facebook page by accident. So it's something to keep in mind, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when we go back to the live Facebook profile. All right, so what to post? Think of it as the local coffee shop. Here's some things that you can post. You can post scheduled and emergency library closings, library event announcements. Not every event needs a Facebook event page. Maybe you just want to post a flyer or a poster about the event, but you don't want to set up an event page for it. Post seasonal greetings. You know, you can maybe find some vintage images of vintage holiday cards to post on certain holidays. Links to articles of local and library interest. Maybe you want to post links to local newspaper articles or local Chamber of Commerce announcements. Community news and announcements, which kind of go with articles of local and library interest. The library interest also can be national articles, maybe something you saw on the ARSL listserv that you think would be interesting to your patrons. Pictures of your latest changes and updates to the library, such as new book displays. This can also, in this current time, maybe it can be pictures of what you're doing to make the library more safe for patrons coming in. If you're thinking about putting up a sneeze guard, you can post a picture along with the text saying, we're excited to see patrons back in the library. Now we have a sneeze guard at the circulation desk for your protection, your and our protection. Something like that. And then you can also post book reviews and information about new acquisitions. This doesn't have to be book reviews that you wrote yourself. Maybe you found a great book review on a book that you have in the library, or a book that you just added to the library collection. And then lastly, library related humor. There are lots of library memes and comics out there. I want to stop and note, you do want to be careful about the humor that you're sharing and make sure it can't be misinterpreted. Most library related memes and comics are pretty safe because we're all librarians and we know, but do keep in mind, you need to watch what kind of humor you're sharing and keep in mind you're representing the library and the community. So, and then last point here, how to build and interact with your audience, which we kind of started to cover in what to post. But I wanted to talk about a few points here. It's both social and media. So treat the library Facebook page as a public space and be mindful of what you post. Sometimes that can be difficult to remember because it doesn't feel public because it's on your own computer and you're the only one looking at it at the time, but it is a public space. As a page administrator, you have the power to moderate your online space and remove abuse, just as you would manage a disruptive patron. I had a librarian, years ago, when we were talking about moderating social media spaces, and I was saying, you know, where's that line? How do you know when to remove a person? And she said, think of it as your own living room or the front desk at the library. If there is someone doing something that you know would upset other patrons present, then you have the power to moderate your space. So have a regular posting schedule and check in regularly on your page. If there's anything that leads to the downfall of a library's Facebook page, I would say this is it. Not posting regularly and not checking in regularly on your page. Just because your page exists doesn't mean that it will automatically do the work for you. You still have to go in and post regularly, check in regularly, make sure your page is up to date, the information on your page is up to date. Remember, anyone can connect. They may or may not be your patrons. So this can be a great way to extend your library's reach beyond your physical boundaries. They may be friends of friends. They might be former patrons who moved halfway across the country. They remain connected with your page because they want to remain connected with your library and your community. Promote the page by sharing to your own personal Facebook page and encourage other patrons active on Facebook to share library posts. This is how your library gets promoted to people who aren't seeking out your library's Facebook page to begin with. And don't be afraid to comment or reply as the library. This gives your library an online presence. So with that, I wanted to go to some examples of library Facebook pages and show you what I mean when I'm saying you need to be careful that you're posting as the library and not yourself. So if we go back to our little fake library page here, you see this little caret up in the upper right-hand corner. Right here, you see your pages. And so I have this Bainville City Library that I've set up. This is a former library that I worked at that has not revoked my administrative privileges yet. So it still shows up as a page that I can post as, that I can use their profile to post. And then also I was formerly on the Publicity and Communications Committee on the Kansas Library Association. And so I still have moderator access to that page also, which is why it shows up here. They have not revoked my moderator access. So this is a good time to highlight. If you have a former employee who did have administrative access, please go in and remove their administrator access for your own security. So this is a dummy page. Like I said, I don't have a lot set up here. So that's why I thought it'd be nice to look at some other libraries who have developed their Facebook page. The first one we're going to look at is the Lawrence Public Library. This is what it looks like when you go to their actual Facebook page. And you can see here on the side is how you navigate to information about and different parts of their Facebook profile. So we're on the home page right now. It shows you sort of a selection of things. So upcoming events, what other groups that they're part of, and then the posts that they have made. And you can go to these individual sections here or using the bar on the left here. So let's say you want to see what they've posted recently. You can go to posts. And you can see their pinned post they made on March 20th, which will stay at the top. But you can see 2 hours ago, they posted a note that their collections librarian, Dan, has posted something on his blog. And you notice they included a photo of Dan. It may or may not have anything to do with the blog post that he made, but they included a photo because they know that will boost the post in other people's news feeds. And you can see on their About page that they have, and when it loads here, they have filled out their About page. It's not gonna load like I wanted it to. But anyway, they have, there we go, filled out their About page with email, website, other information, general information, et cetera, et cetera. So they've really gone through and developed their page. Topeka Shawnee County Public Library has an excellent Facebook page if you need ideas on what to post and how to use it. But you might be thinking, okay, and then Kansas City, Missouri Public Library also has an excellent Facebook page. These are all Kansas libraries that you can look at. And you notice here on the right-hand side of the screen, their About section shows up here on their main page. So Facebook really tries to cram whatever you want on that main page also. But you might be thinking, okay, what about a smaller library? Because I'm a smaller library. So Derby Public Library in Kansas has an excellent Facebook page. And their homepage, you notice their cover photo is a quote. Their profile photo is their logo. And this is their main page. And I had gone down to posts to look at because I noted that their last post was just yesterday. Excuse me, not their last post. Their last post was half an hour ago when I was looking at it. It was just yesterday. But so they're very active. Andover Public Library likewise has a pretty good page. You can see they have pinned a post. So this will appear at the top of their main page when people visit the page. And it's information about their hours during the pandemic. And their last regular post was a couple days ago. And it's wonderful. Okay. And you know, you can see that people are interacting on the page. And then just to note, I think so, I did not look at the specific statistic, but something like 90% of Facebook users are not in the United States. So in its example, here's the National Library of Scotland's Facebook page. I think sometimes it's interesting to look at how they're using Facebook as well. They are a large library, and so they are using it for a lot of different things. And just keep in mind in all of this, let's say I wanted to comment as this fake Bainville Library on something from Lawrence Public Library. Let's say I wanted to comment on the post about Dan's blog. You notice right now, it's me, myself, my personal me, Kate. If I wanted to comment as Bainville City Library, You have to go to that little caret, select Bainville City Library. It will take you to, it's a little annoying, it'll take you to that library's Facebook page. And you'll have to navigate back to the Lawrence Public Library. All right, and comment, and you can comment. The other thing to watch for is right here. You can change who you're commenting as. Look for that little caret with the profile photo. And now I'd be commenting as the Bainville City Library. All right, in the interest of time, we're going to finish up the presentation and I'll stop the recording before we do Q&A. So there are some examples of library Facebook pages on these slides, which will be available along with the recording. There are resources and further reading. Obviously, I cannot cover everything in half an hour. I would highly encourage you to look at the resources and further reading that I have posted here. So there is a few articles. A guide to Facebook for libraries is very readable, but it is very out of date. So that would be, I think, a good thing to glance through. This is why I put the dates on these resources, so you know how old these resources are, because Facebook is ever changing. And then also there are some articles and let's see, Niche Academy. It's more like a tutorial website. It's more of an online learning website. 5 Minute Librarian is great if you only have 5 minutes to read a blog post. And so I would encourage you to check those out. All right, and with that, we're gonna have questions and wrap up here. So I included this slide because I found it especially relevant recently. So do enjoy that. I'm going to stop the sharing and stop the recording, and then we can get to questions and answers. I